So thank you for being here, Enrique. I appreciate you coming onto the podcast.
Thank you for having me here, Tracy.
So I don't even know where to begin, but you've got this very cool app and um, Find My Parent. I mean, this is so beautiful because a lot of the work that I've been doing for the last few years is encouraging the clients that I work with and men in my audience to take steps to make themselves visible online in the right way, of course, because it's very important if you're going to be visible online, not to do the wrong things, but to make it possible for your children to find you, because you can have a relationship with them even without how can I say this, even without them necessarily participating. That the fact that they are hearing you and you get to put out there what you would wish them to know and what you want them to hear from you, and the sound of your voice, and being able to see your face, it's so impactful, it's so activating. And I feel so strongly that everyone should be doing this and encouraging, sort of energetically encouraging their children to find them. So you now actually have an app called Find My Parent. So tell us how that happened and what it's all about.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. Yeah, you bring up a lot of great points, and all those points that you brought up are part of what made Find My Parent, right? And I guess we can start about the roots of Find My Parent. Find My Parent started because I had a similar situation. My daughter was taken away from me for quite some time, and I thought, like, well. And this happened in Japan, where there is no such thing as joint custody.
Mm.
And so, and when that happened to me, I found out that this is a huge problem in Japan. I thought I was just isolated just to the individual, but then I realized it's a national problem, a domestic problem. And 99% of the time, when there is a separation of marriage, a child is considered property.
Yeah.
And therefore only one parent keeps the child. So when I first thought this happened to me, I thought it's just me. Then I did some more research. I like, this is huge. I said, how can I empower my daughter to find me, at the same time also empower other children? Given my background, I said, well, let's just leverage technology. Kids love using tech these days, right? And so that's how it evolved. And part of that, there's two parts to Find My Parent. It was the application side of things, which we've developed. And we are now working with NGOs and governments and
Oh,
people.
fantastic.
Yeah. And we're growing it. We're only 3 years old, but we're growing. And the other side of it is actually exactly what you talked, creating a presence online. And what we do is another service that we offer is for parents who don't have much of a tech background, is we create them a website for exactly what you said, to create SEO content for the child to find the parent.
Brilliant. Brilliant. That's so great. So I'm curious to know if your daughter found you through this app or through other means.
It was inedible for my daughter to find me through this application. My former spouse reached out and said, hey, can we work something out? But she was very well aware that I had purchased the domains of my daughter's name, etc. And she was very well aware of this website that existed. And I was aware that in Japan, one of the first assignments when the child goes to first grade is to look up their name on the internet. So it was just a matter of time.
Okay, interesting.
There was plenty of SEO content. And one of the things that we do at Find My Parent is we cater the website to create as much as SEO content localized to the area that you believe the child is located, and then it targets that area. And actually, Tracy,
so brilliant.
We were actually helped a father locate a child, or we helped a father, get their daughter in contact back with them after, I think it was 6 years of no contact. through separate because of alienation. I think what happened was the daughter was dating an individual, and that individual Googled her name, found the website, had all the information, said like, hey, like, do you know about your dad? She had no idea, and then this is how it all happened.
Wow. That's so cool. Do you know Petra Dieter?
Patrick Dieter, I do not.
She is the force behind victimtohero.com. So you should totally, like, she should know about you, that's for sure. She has made a feature movie, a feature-length film about parental alienation, and she has an amazing story. She was also a guest on my podcast, but just briefly, she was unknowingly, as a child, was alienated from her father. What she understood was that her parents had been divorced. Her dad was a bad guy. She was never to see him. And that was the end of the story. And it was like she was in her 40s, I think, when a family member reached out to her and said, I just feel like I need to tell you some stuff about your dad. And through that, she found the website that you're talking about, the website with, I don't know, like she Googled her name and his name, and somewhere there she found a website. Unfortunately, her dad had already passed away. I mean, Petra is now in her 50s. Her dad had already passed away, but he left her this unbelievable treasure trove, a time capsule of stuff going way back to her childhood, with all the gifts that he had bought for her, all the cards that he had sent, videos of him, letters that he had written to her. And this was the most profoundly healing thing that had ever happened to her. And she has since, like, essentially devoted her whole life to working to help other parents who are in this kind of situation. So he left this legacy that changed the world by doing that, like, it's so powerful. It's such a powerful story. So it would be really, it would be wonderful. You guys need to know each other for sure.
Yeah, that sounds great. And that's exactly one of the things that we tell the parents we help create this parent website is has to be positive content.
Right.
Put videos of yourself, things that you do, like you said, Christmas gifts, birthday gifts.
Yeah.
Put it all on the website. They will find it. And like with my background and my team's background, again, we just make sure that every search engine indexes it correctly.
Right.
So, and that's the key.
Brilliant.
Right? And if you can localize it to, if you know where an area the child may be, that
This is so brilliant. I can't believe it. It's so brilliant. Like, this is exactly what everybody needs. And it's so impactful to do this. And then, of course, as you were saying, the content is really important.
correct.
I have suggested to people who, because a lot of I work with dads, so surely there are moms as well, right? But it's a very awkward thing when you haven't seen or spoken to your child in years sometimes, to get in front of the camera and, like, act natural, act like you're just talking, like, what am I supposed to say? And I often tell people to just start with like reading stories, like read a chapter book, like they want it, you want them to hear your voice, see your face. On one level, it does, like, not, you don't want to be emotional. I'm sure you would say the same thing, right? You don't want to be emotional. You don't want to talk about the situation. You don't want it to be about you. And so what are you left with? Like, what, because it is emotional. How do you not be emotional when you're making videos to your kids that you miss so much? What do you suggest to people?
So, I can take this particular parent as an example that I know well, is exactly what you said. And then if you want to express some frustration, I said, go ahead and do that. Post the video, lock it, hide it. And if they ever want to see that side of you, that's okay. But publicly, since this is a public website, it must be a public website. Don't show that as
Right.
this is who my dad is. Because that video will be taken out of context if
Right.
the other parent finds that.
Right. And not even just if the other parent finds it, but we have this whole complicated issue that people are used to dealing with it when the child is in their home, which is the loyalty bind, the
Yes.
loyalty conflict, right? And the child does not want to walk into a situation where the alienating parent is being judged by you in negatively, right? Like, they can't handle that. They want to stick up for the parent who's doing the wrong thing.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. And I know this particular situation of an individual that I know, um, and it's an interesting story. So the individual was with his friends, and he told his friends, like, listen, my child's going to be here. Let's greet each other like we naturally do, which is hugs and kisses, and just make sure no bad mouthing, just have a good time. Like nobody here
Yeah.
is a bad person. This is after the father had reunited with the child
Hmm.
after alienation, right? And the child had a great time, and as the parent was leaving the friends, hugs and kisses, and the child was not used to that, but the child was like, hey, how about me? Why don't I get a hug and kiss, right?
Mm.
And so the friends gave the child a hug and kiss as well. And then the interesting part here is, so one thing that this parent told me that the child likes to do, and he reinforced it, was every time the father was to take the child back with the mother, he would go to the store and buy flowers because that's what the child liked to do. And so even though after all the drama and
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
bad
yeah.
blood, father would
What a
encourage
nice
the
thing.
child to go get the flowers and get the flowers
Give
to
them to your
with
mom.
the child, and then give them to the mom. And on this particular occasion, the father was telling me that when that particular day, and this is how a child are sponges, they absorb so much, is um, as the child was dropping off, sorry, as the father was dropping off the child's like, you have to give a hug to mommy and a
Oh,
kiss.
oh
And
boy.
then the father was like, yeah, that's fine. And then the mother was like, absolutely not, that's not happening. And so I know you don't have a choice, you're doing it. And you see this child, after seeing what is compassion, love, and,
Yeah,
and just because that's what the child wants, right? At the
yeah,
bottom of their heart, right? It's just like, I
yeah.
want my parents just to get along. Is the mother actually gave a hug and kiss in the cheek to the father?
Nice, nice, very nice.
Beautiful, right?
I know
But it goes to positive reinforcement.
there are some kids who absolutely manipulate to get their parents back together. That's not what we're talking about. This was more just it should be normal between you, and this is what normal people do. And
Correct.
yeah, that's really, really nice.
Absolutely. And I think my stance with this is, even though this particular parent, the mother alienated the child for a very long time, is the fact that that father was able to let it go and just say, I care what's best for my child,
Yeah,
and I'm putting all that away and
yeah,
just focusing on this. It really shows priorities.
it does, and it shows emotional maturity and
Yes.
evolution, right?
Yes.
And it when you can do that, I'm sure that people are listening right now who are saying, I don't know if I'm a big enough man to ever
Mhm.
do that. Like, I don't know if I could be that guy, it, and it's part of the benefit to you of this terrible situation. Like, everything benefits you in some way, and it's pushing you towards a level of personal growth where you would
Mhm.
never go if you weren't having this kind of drama and conflict and difficulty in your life. It's forcing it's forcing this growth from you because
Right.
it's so important to you to get this
Yes.
right. And you might go through your whole life otherwise without ever being challenged to grow in this way.
Absolutely. In hindsight, though, it's such a small moment in life, but for your child, it's so big,
Right.
right? And then they learn from this. And like I said, like just the example that when he gave me that, it was like the child took that example from the friends, applied it to the parents. It's like, wow. And so children are always looking at your behavior more than what your
Yeah.
words are.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. That's the foundation of the whole program that I teach, is that it's all about the actions and not the words, right? It's like learning to communicate actually intentionally through your actions, and
Yes.
to make the child feel safe and to feel loved and to feel seen and appreciated without saying, I love you, I see you, you're safe here. We have ways to make that a reality for the
Right.
child through our actions.
Right.
And
And
I was going to say one of the things when you just said, relating the situation of the friends to the parents, it's something that I encourage the dads that I work with to, I call it the credibility piece. It's one of the 5 C's, but that the child needs to see other people interacting with you in a natural, healthy way. They need to be in contact with people who hold you in esteem, people who like you, people who like hanging around you, friends, neighbors, work colleagues, parents of their other friends, team members, faith community, whatever it might be. They need to see you interacting with other adults who think you're a good guy, because if they're being alienated, they're being bombarded with negative talk about you. So the way to antidote that is just that they see there are lots of people who like you, in fact, right?
yes. Yeah, and just showed love and compassion. And I think that this particular parent, like he's given me several examples of what has happened through his reunification process. Is he always maintains his cool, no
Yeah.
matter what. I think one example that we're discussing the other day was he lost his wallet, and the child was there,
Mm,
and he was most people would just blow up, and he was just like, oh, that's fine, and the child was completely in shock. Maybe the child was used to or expecting a anger or
yeah.
some anger reaction or something of that
Yeah.
sort, but it's the fact that the father was completely cool about it, and the child was just stunned.
Yeah.
And
So
but it goes
great.
to show that it breaks that mold of whatever's
Right.
being painted of the father.
Exactly. It's so important. It's important to know, in a sense, what the what the
Be
rhetoric
conscious.
is on the other side, like that you don't you want to hear your child tell you, you're so irresponsible, or you can't be trusted to whatever. And you don't get angry at that. It's like you take your notebook and you say,
Mhm.
aha, because this is a fact finding, you're finding out what is being said about you. And now you're going to show, not say that's not true, I'm very responsible. You're just
Right.
going to show how you're going to find ways to um, show the child that you
Yep.
do what you say you're going to do. You always show up on time. You take care of your responsibilities. You take things seriously. You're going to demonstrate it.
Correct. And that is a key thing, and reminds you of something what this parent was telling me is this father never, he says he never asked the child any questions regarding the mom's personal life. Zero.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
It's like the child will ask him, what do you think of mommy? And his response is like, I think your mom's awesome. That's all he responds like, you think so? It's like, yeah, your mom's awesome.
Right.
And
She is.
regardless what the child says, it's like the father would just listen. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's how you feel about your mom. I don't have an opinion about your mom, but I just think your mom's a great mom. That's it.
She
Because
is the
if that's
best
how you
mom in
feel,
the world for you. That's the answer.
exactly. And it really shifts he says that he could really see the child thinking is like, how could my father be saying this? And then perhaps he doesn't know, right? He's like, the child probably goes home and has been told something completely different. It's like, well, my father doesn't react anyway like that. He's just like,
Right. Yeah,
so we've
yeah.
had these discussions in depth. I was like, it's quite interesting. A child analyzes so many little things that you consciously may not be aware of.
Absolutely. No, that's the whole thing. We want to get at them, like under the level of their
Mhm.
conscious awareness, because that's where it counts, right? Like this whole alienation, like, brainwashing and gaslighting and that's all happening on a subconscious level. Like it's playing with their mind in a way that they can't they can't deal with it rationally and cognitively. So you're not going to reverse it by saying, look, we have to have a talk, let me tell you the truth. It's not ever going to happen like that. You have to work behind the scenes, like in their brain, behind the scenes to smooth out this sort of cognitive dissonance that they're having about you. Like, how can it be possible that my mother has to be right and my father has to be right? And they will throw themselves under the bus. The child will sacrifice their own mental health, to keep their parents on a pedestal in a way.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. And so through my travels through Central and South America, I've met several people, and I'm very open about what has happened with me with my situation. And as I've talked to so many men, I've noticed this is such a huge problem that a lot of them never talk to anybody about
Yeah.
what happened, right? But those who have mentioned what happened, I mean, I'd say about 50% of them have reunified with their children years later when the children are in their 20s or
Yeah.
30s. The children sometimes reach out, and a lot of the times, these parents, these fathers, they're mostly fathers, if I'm honest. One thing that I've noticed in common is that they never say anything bad about the mother, and
Yeah.
they just focus on that relationship with the child, right? And the child themselves actually, at that point, when they reach out to the father, they realize what had happened.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think in these individuals that I talk to, and there's hundreds of them that I have here in Latin American, is they're just focused on between the relationship with the child and them, and just make sure it's like, listen, whatever you need, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Um, like, I'm just glad that you're talking to me. What happened 20 years ago, it's 20 years ago. I wish I could change it, but it is what it is. But let's just focus on today and let's just have a great relationship.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. And of course, the work that you're doing is trying to make it happen sooner than when they get to be in their 20s or 30s, that kids are online now and they are very, very savvy about how to use digital technology and internet services. And you're kind of making them easily run into you online.
Correct. Yeah, and that's the whole part of the application, right? So parents put their information there, children put the information there, and we have a match, and then that reunification process can happen a lot sooner because you have domestic travel or people move, or you have international
Yeah.
travel where people actually or I call it migration, right? Domestic migration and international migration. And I've talked to both parents as like I said, travel a lot, and a lot of that happens. Oh, my child's now living in France or Spain. Um, but with this application, it's global. So
Fantastic. Another, I think, a really important feature of your application is that it can presumably be used in a way that can skip around the attention of the alienating parent. So, what's difficult is that when, for instance, a parent is sending text messages or emails or phoning, the alienating parent is aware if the child is reading it or responding or whatever. So it's so important for them to have ways to find you and connect that are not coming up on the radar of the alienating parent, because that's a big part of the problem. They can't risk that.
100%. And what actually, that's an interesting feature that you mentioned. This feature was mentioned to us because we're working with an organization in Ukraine with part of the Ukrainian police. And one of the things that they mentioned was that they needed the application when it's removed or closed, that it deletes any metadata, right?
Wow.
Because of the situation in that conflict zone, right? So, and obviously we applied it to our parent-child application as well. But when they asked us, like, we need the application to the the moment you remove it, it deletes everything. So therefore, nobody can see that this was ever downloaded, and the messages were all gone as well. So the same thing, same technology that you just mentioned applies for the child parent application.
Fantastic. That is so, so cool. I can't believe that I don't even know how I stumbled onto you, but I just think this is brilliant. So tell the listeners what do they have to do? How do they get hooked up with this?
You can go to findmyparent.org. It has a link if you have an Android device. Go down to the Google Play Store, and if you have an iOS device, it'll take you to the Apple Store. You can download the application. If you want a parent website for us, we can help you. You can contact us as well. I think there's contact information on our website as well. And yeah, we can
Oh, this is
absolutely help
like
them.
next level. I just think that's fantastic. I'm really, really excited about this. I want everyone to know about it. So I'll be promoting you hard because this is yeah, this is a really, really great development. And I hope that it gets to be super well known. I hope that yeah, I mean, let there be lots of reunifications with
Thank
this.
you, appreciate that. Yeah, part of the application is when the user signs up, we have to approve the user who's signing up. And yes, I would say I encourage parents to sign up. I sometimes I partake in approving profiles, especially when visually the child's under the age of 10, which believe me, we do get a lot of those.
Mhm.
um, it's hard to see that. It really is really hard to see. Like you have children between the age of 5 and 10 signing up. I'm like, ooh, it's like these children are looking for their parent or for the family members. Might be their father, might be some
Yeah,
relatives, who knows? But it's heartbreaking.
yeah,
So
wow,
believe me, children
wow,
are out there looking for you.
wow,
If any
wow,
parent has doubt,
wow, just wow. I think it's so important for the dads. I mean, of course, it happens also to moms, but I'm speaking to dads. It's so important for these guys to understand um, how how important you are and how you are not being, sometimes the child is compelled to say that they don't want to hear from you.
correct.
And and yet at night under the blankets with a flashlight, they're going onto your website. Like what Petra Dieter says that when she was a child, she would find spare change and go to the store and buy the copy of the newspaper when she heard friends saying that her father had published a poem in the newspaper, and she would go and hide it under her bed, even
Wow.
though, like, out loud she would say, I never want to see that guy. And even in real life, that she would reject him when he tried to reach out to her. It's a complex, very complicated issue, but you have to know that they are looking for you and hoping for contact. And this is just a brilliant, brilliant way of making that happen. So thank you so much for being here. And I hope that you'll be hearing from some of my peeps who are going to find you and sign up.
Absolutely, yeah. And to that note, what you just said, that's absolutely right on target. Talking to alienated fathers, these two particularly that come to mind that have reunified with their children. Um, yes, the child may say, I don't want to see you, but the father reassures, I love you no matter what, and I will be here, and goes and still shows up.
Yeah,
He mentioned to me that the child secretly smiles, even though the child has probably resentment towards him, but he doesn't hold it against the child and says, I'm going to make the best out of you, make sure you have a great time. And that is his only priority. And the child, even though he pushes back, it's at the end of the day, the child's extremely happy and he sees it.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
the child, like you said, has to hide that feeling.
That's a survival thing, unfortunately. The child is living with um, a kidnapper, essentially,
You know? Yep.
and they have to take care of themselves, and it's correct for them to do that. We just have to adjust our own approach and attitude in order to be able to, create this channel for you to
Yes.
reconnect in a way that the child can allow themselves to
And,
participate in.
and maintain a healthy channel. I think that's the key. No matter
Yeah,
what, don't escalate the issue. Always de-escalate, always show love, compassionate for the child's mother, in this case that we're discussing. Um, don't show any vendetta, any hate, just pure love.
yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Enrique. And
Thank you.
I'll be dropping the links, findmyparent.org, but I'll be sure to put that in the show notes as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Tracy.
Okay.